Hi guys, so I'm having a look at one of those cheaper tablets again. This one is 4G, just like the TechTablets 98 that I looked at. Hopefully it won't have the problems with the SIM cards like I did on that model. This is the Cube T10. So it's got a MediaTek 8783 chipset in there, which is an octa-core that can turbo up to 1.3 gigahertz. It's got 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now I picked this one up from Gearbest, but this time around, because it's a cheaper device, I decided to just get it sent with the slow mail. So it took around 2 weeks to arrive. So it's got that super bubble wrap on there, so it should be fine, no damage to it. And a typical Cube box here. So other specs of this, it is running Android 6, so not the latest version of Android, but at least it isn't running really dated Android like 5.1 or something like that. Now it does have 4G as mentioned, but the bands on it are kind of strange. We've got band 34, 38, 39, 40, and 41. So no band 20, at least here in Spain, if the SIM reader's working, it should work for me 4G with the frequencies I have for my current carrier, and it does support the 2100 megahertz 3G band too. Put the tablet to the side for a second. Now I don't think we get a charger or anything else. Okay, instruction leaflets and cable, that's it. But you could just use your standard mobile charger for this, which will work just fine because all you need is 5 volts, 2 amps. So micro USB cable, some warranty card, VIP Cube card thing, and use manual, which is in English and Chinese. So the screen it's got is 16 by 10 ratio, 1920 by 1200 resolution, which you've seen plenty of before, and it is 10.1 inches. It should be an IPS panel. So up the front here, ambient light sensor, something we don't normally see in this price range, and a front-facing 2 megapixel camera. So on the rear, we've got this alloy. Feels good. There's a plastic strip along the top. That's for the antenna reception, and it does have a autofocus 8 megapixel camera on the rear there with LED flash. Now the build quality so far seems quite good and decent, really, for the price. Along the top left is where you find the power on and volume buttons. Now they're made out of metal and they've got a reasonably good feel to them. They don't rattle or shake around. On the bottom here, we've got these little slots. They are actually the speaker grills, so that's where the sound's going to come out. So downward firing speakers. I imagine they won't be that good, but I'll test them out later on in this video. And of course, no pogo port on this one. It doesn't support any attachable keyboards. If you want a keyboard, you're going to have to use Bluetooth. On the left side of where all the ports are, so at the top, a 3.5mm headphone jack, micro SD card slot, micro USB 2.4 charging and data, then our SIM tray there for a SIM, for 4G and 3G support, and this little one down here is a tiny, what looks to be about 2mm DC in for charging, which will also be 5 volts and 2 amps. Oh, and I almost missed it, this little slot here is where the microphone is. Thickness comes in at exactly 9mm. And it weighs 537 grams. So in terms of build, it is a lot better than the TechTablets 98 Octacore, another 4G tablet that I recently reviewed, because it's got the metal that goes right the way around it. It's thinner, it's better put together, and the bezels also, as you can see, are slightly thinner, and I can see that there is less of a gap too between the touch digitizer glass and then the IPS panel below on the Cube here. Alright, so first boot did take a little while. The screen looks good. I can tell that it's in IPS. It's bright. It's got vibrant colors. And they are using a stock ROM. In fact, that's very bright. It must be on the brightest setting, which it is. Viewing angles look fine to me, although if you have a look there, that the vertical viewing angles aren't so good. Probably because of the screen protectors that are on there. I haven't removed the top layer of that one just yet. So it is running Android 6 and the security patch levels from June the 1st, 2016. So quite dated there. So super bloat free ROM, which is good. They're putting no other crappy applications on there whatsoever. FM radio support, there's a file manager on there, Google Play Store of course. Now you'll see here we do have phone and messaging. So you will be able to make phone calls with this using the SIM slot with your 3G or 4G SIM card. I've connected up to my wireless router here, and it has detected 5G bands, but it's wireless and 5G, so it doesn't have the faster wireless AC on here. I've also run the wireless update software, the application here, to check for any OTAs, and there is nothing, as you can see. I put my SIM card in there and straight away got onto my 4G network here in Spain without any problems, which is really good. But if you have a look at these speeds here, they're not particularly good. These are very slow for 4G. I mean, 3G can get that kind of speed, so not the greatest there. Wi-Fi at least is a lot better. So the download speed of 41 is decent, but the upload of 73 is really good for wireless in. And just to point out that you can make voice calls, I did a quick test and it works fine. Of course, it uses the loudspeaker unless you connect up headphones to it. And here's our Antutu score, which you can see is nothing crazy. It's not even getting over 40,000 there. The main weakness is the GPU, that Mali T720. Oh, and yes, 128GB micro SD cards do work in this model. So we do have GPS on board the Cube T10 here, which is great. Unfortunately, it lacks compass hardware, so that's not going to be the best when moving about. Now, accuracy was 3 meters here when I took the screenshot, but I did walk down the end of the road and it jumped up to around 10 and 12. So it's not the most accurate GPS. It's also only picking up around 9 satellites, but if I use my mobile phone, I get over 20. So with that Antutu result, it's definitely no speed demon, but things like internet, I'm now in the default browser we've got here, and the performance is actually quite good. Not bad. The touch response and accuracy seems good. It is smooth. And if I just go into a post here, never loaded this page before, you can get an idea of the performance we have. It pops up fast enough. I mean, it's not going to be the fastest, but really not too bad. Same goes for the ROM performance. As long as you don't multitask too much, it is really quite quick loading things up. But you've only got 2GB of RAM. The more you start to push it, the more you start to load. I have noticed that you will see some slowdown between switching between apps. So I wouldn't really want to be running anything massive like a game, then go into the browser and back and forth, because it will start to lag then. Now, a very quick look at the camera. So the rear camera will take an okay photo. It's nothing amazing. Your mobile phone will certainly take a better picture, but for me the most important will be the front-facing camera for things like Skype, and the quality of it isn't bad at all. It's actually quite decent, a lot better than the TechTablets 98 or the Cube iPlay 10 that I reviewed, and the frame rate seems alright when recording. Quality is only 48p, you can see it's square VGA resolution, but really 30 frames per second and reasonably bright, but of course I do have studio lighting on here at the moment. So the speakers are reasonably loud. They've got a lot of distortion, lots of treble, almost no bass. They're not good sounding speakers, but they are a little bit louder than other devices. Now the 3.5mm headphone jack is also loud, and I didn't notice any static or interference on my unit, which is another positive. Now lastly, onto gaming performance. So a very basic and not so demanding game like Clash of Clans here, this performs well. You see there, well, I don't have exactly a huge village. This is only town level 7, I think it is, or level 8. And it performs well even in the battles. You do see an occasional little stutter here and there. And now you see in a demanding 3D title like Modern Combat 5 that it is quite slow. There's definitely frame dips, bits of lag here and there. But it is running it better than the Cube iPlay 10 or the TechTablets 98 Octacore. As you can see, frame rate is, wow, very slow. Getting down to around 10-15 frames per second then. It is not ideal. Now battery life is looking very good. I haven't done a full cycle yet, so I'd have to update you later in the comments on that. But I've had the screen on now for almost 1 hour at a reasonably bright level. See, 52 minutes. And I started out with about 99 or 98% battery, and it's now down to 89%. And it's calculating at the moment about 8 hours left, which I tend to believe here because I've been running benchmarks and gaming on it and doing kind of heavy tasks. So I think you're looking ideally around 6 to 8 hours maximum on this, which is a lot better than the other cheaper Android tablets that I looked at, which were only getting around 4 to 5 to 6 hours. So there are a lot of things I like here about the Cube T10. So I'll start off with the positives, that it's got a nice screen, it's very responsive, accurate to touch, good colors on there, and you do have an ambient light sensor as well. Also, the front-facing camera is quite decent for this price range of tablet. Now we've got the SIM card on there. It's not dual SIM, so it only takes one SIM card, which is your micro size. And 4G works for me here, at least in Spain, but do check, of course, with your carrier whether it's going to work for you or not before buying it. I can make voice calls, but the 4G speeds are a little bit slow there. Build quality is very decent, it's good. The gap between the touch digitizer glass and then the IPS panel below isn't that great. It's not as bad as the Tech Glass 98 Octacore. Also, that model, my 4G SIM card reader didn't even work on it, so this is why I prefer this one better. The ROM on it is fast, it's light, but you can't do heavy multitasking. The chipset's not really made for that. And also the gaming performance, as you've seen, is really quite poor. It's slightly better than the other model, the iPlay 10, for example. A little bit faster because it's got that slightly more powerful, or 1 core more, should I say, on the GPU. But it still is a very weak GPU. Good for light games, but not demanding ones. So overall, it's not too bad. Yes, it is more expensive than the other models out there. However, you are getting better build quality, longer battery life too. It's looking to be around 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on what you're doing and your brightness levels there, of course. So overall, I feel this is the better ones of the cheap octa-cores that I have looked at just recently from the Chinese brands. Thanks so much for watching this review, and I do hope to see you back in the channel soon with more up-and-coming reviews. If you've got any questions, comments, please post them down below.